So looking at the second half of lesson 2.1, chapter 2, lesson 1, we're going to look at transformations of quadratics. So in our kickoff lesson, we looked at the translations, right, moving those from side to side, up and down. We're going to look a little more in depth at what can be done to move a graph and also how to stretch or shrink a graph. So, the generic form of vertex form is y equals a times the quantity, that part in parentheses, x minus h squared. And so x minus h, and then we square, and then plus k. So we are going to look at what the different parts of that equation do. Right? So we're going to start with H and K because our kickoff lesson kind of introduced that to us. So H is the x coordinate of the vertex, but it is the opposite of what is in the what the sign is. Right? So this moves our graph left, right. Okay, and everything that happens in parentheses is going to be opposite. And that's going to reappear in some later chapters as well, right? But the x value of our vertex is h, right? The subtraction here is why we have to do the opposite sign. Right, so it's the x coordinate of the vertex. It's important to note that it is the opposite sign. Of what is in parentheses. Okay, so what is in parentheses? It's the opposite sign, and we're going to look at some more examples of that in a moment. Okay, this k value controls the up-down shift or translation, and it is the y value of the vertex. It is not opposite, though. The only time we're dealing with opposites are things that are in parentheses. Okay, and then the a value, which we did not see in our introductory lesson, it does two things. It controls the opening, that is not how you spell opening. Okay, so it controls if it opens up or down. And it controls the size of the opening. Okay, we'll look at that in a moment as well. It's basically going to control how quickly your data grows. So let's look at this in terms of some examples. So for example 1, that generic formula y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. Okay, so this particular example does not have an a value listed right here. Right? There is no a value out in front of what is getting squared. So in that case, my A value is positive 1. Okay, my H value, right, shown here, is going to be the opposite of what we see, right? So if it is a x minus 2, my H value is positive 2, right? We flip the sign of whatever is happening to x, okay? The K value coming in here is whatever sign it is, right? So this is minus 18. So my K value is at negative 18. So vertex is always H, comma, K. So my vertex of this graph would happen at 2, comma, negative 18. Now, direction of opening. If your A value is positive, right? A value is positive, your parabola opens up. Okay? If your A value is negative, your parabola opens down. Okay? So if we think of this as like a smile or a frown, right? If we think of this part right here as a smile or a frown, right? A positive parabola is smiley, and a negative parabola is frowny, right? So since this A value right here is positive, it is going to be a positive, happy parabola. So my parabola is going to open up. And our transformation here then would just be right 2, down 18. Right? We get that from this vertex here. We can graph these. So using Desmos, I could graph that original y equals x minus 2 squared minus 18. Right? I see my graph here. I'd have to zoom out a little bit. But I see that it is upward opening. Right? The graph opens up. And I see that the graph shifted to the right and then down. Right? This vertex shifted to the right and then down. Looking at example 2. Let's start with A. My A value here, right? Y equals A times x minus h squared plus k. My A value, what is out in front of whatever is getting squared? Well, it's just a negative sign. So my A value in this case would be negative 1. And that A value controls the opening of the parabola. And since this one is negative, right, I have this negative right there. It is a negative parabola. It is a frowny parabola. So my opening is down. Okay, H and K control the vertex. H comma K is my vertex. So right here, I have an H value of negative 3, right? Because it is the opposite of what I see in my equation. If it's in parentheses, it is opposite. And then I have a K value of negative 14. So I have a vertex of negative 3, comma, negative 14. Then the transformation is left 3, down 14. It is also going to get flipped across the x-axis to make it negative. So you should be able to try number 3 on your own before I show you what to do here. So for -3, I don't see anything out in front of the x minus h squared. So I'm just going to have an a value of 1. My h value is the opposite of what I see in parentheses. And then my k value is cut off in the picture. So I'm just going to tell you that the k value is 3. That means that my vertex is at 7, 3. And the direction of my opening is up, right? Because my a value is positive. Transformation then of right 7, up 3. So graphing these parabolas, I think by now you should be able to plug into a graphing calculator of some kind and create a graph based off of the data you get from your graphing calculator. So my main focus on this lesson is you identifying A, H, and K and plotting that vertex accordingly and graphing a rough sketch of your parabola accordingly. Right, so A, right, there is nothing out in front. No, so my A value is not 0, right, because that if I said it was 0 and I multiplied all of this by 0, right, I would not have a parabola anymore because I would get a bunch of zeros right there. Right, so my A value is 1, and that tells me that my parabola is going to open up. Okay. H value is the opposite of what is in parentheses here. So I have an H value of 3. K value is after everything gets squared. So it is at -1. That means that my vertex is at 3, -1, right? 3, -1, H, K. And my parabola is going to open up because my A value is positive. So just a rough sketch then of what that would look like. I want you to pause it up, and I want you to try 5 and 6, and then unpause and complete this one, these two, 5 and 6, before looking at the video to check your work. For number 5, right, I have that negative out in front of my x minus h squared, right? So this negative means my A value is -1, which again controls the opening. So it's going to be a frowny, negative, downward opening parabola. My H value is the opposite of what I see in parentheses, and my K value is going to be the 3. So my vertex is going to be at -4, 3, left 4, up 3. And it is going to be a negative frowny parabola. And then number 6. So for number 6, there is nothing out in front. So I have an A value of 1, an H value of 2, and a K value of -4. So there is my vertex at 2, -4. And a positive smiley parabola. That brings us to the end of our notes for lesson 2.1. You should be good to go for your assignment, getting that completed and ready to turn in.